from the entrance of both ear canals to the eardrum. We're just starting off on the left ear here. What made this procedure a bit more difficult than your norm is that the patient's ear canal, at least at the entrance, is somewhat collapsed. It's fallen upon itself. So the back part of the ear canal, the cartilaginous portion just at the entrance, possibly due to age, it's just drooped over, which has almost concealed the entrance of the ear canal. It's made it a lot narrower and therefore a bit more tricky to remove. That in part could be the reason as to why the patient's developing chronic earwax impaction. This wax is trying to naturally migrate out of the ear, but when it reaches the entrance, because of the canal being slightly collapsed, it's preventing the wax from naturally migrating. You see we've got a large plug of soft wax there, and this final plug of wax is a bit more medial, it's towards the eardrum. Patient has got somewhat an inclined ear canal, so it does go up quite a lot, which most people's ears do, around 30 degrees in trajectory. However, I feel in this patient has a bit more of an upwards trajectory. And the ear canal is a bit bendy as well. So the second bend, we have two bends in the ear. The ear canal is like an S shape, and the second bend in particular in this patient is quite pronounced. This is where the second bend is here to the left-hand side. You can see the canal wall. So I've managed to extract this wax forwards, bring it laterally out of the entrance. You can see the angle I'm going there, so I'm having to go up and to the right to visualise the eardrum. Patient has got a small attic retraction, so the top part of the eardrum, you can see there's a little pocket there, and that's due to eustachian tube dysfunction. Behind the eardrum, we have the middle ear cavity. The middle ear should be full of air, so it's air-filled, and the air pressure should be equivalent to the air pressure in the atmosphere. And what regulates the air pressure, I'll just come back to that actually, but the reason why it's important that the air pressure is equal either side of the eardrum is that's when we hear the best, that's when the eardrum is most mobile. So there's a little tube behind the eardrum called the eustachian tube that connects to the back of the nasopharynx, to the back of the nose. And that tube is predominantly shut closed, and during brief moments of yawning, swallowing or chewing, that tube momentarily opens, which then allows for the equilibrium or the equalization of air pressure, and that's when we hear the best. So it's just a bit of wet sticky wax on the anterior canal wall. Just remove that. Patient's eardrum's otherwise intact and healthy. Just moving on to the right ear now. Similarly to the left ear, it's very sticky glutinous wax, and it extends all the way from the entrance to the eardrum, so medially. It's got this mashed potato consistency. Sometimes I actually put some drops in there, some olive oil drops, just because it binds it together, and it also prevents the suction probe from getting blocked. I think I managed actually in this occasion to remove it without using any drops actually. So although it was sticky and glutinous, it still did hold its shape somewhat, and it wasn't blocking the suction probe on a regular basis. So I just continued. You can see the patient's got a bit of matted air there. So this plug came out in, I think came out in 2 pieces, or was it in 1? Let's have a look. No, so I've got the main bolt there. So on the periphery, some sticky wax. Now the patient's hearing's restored. Removing this per se is not going to improve their hearing, but it's on the lateral part, so I'm just gently using the suction probe to release the sticky wax off the canal wall. Now there's a few loose hairs a bit deeper in the ear, and if you keep watching you will see that I do remove some of those. Now in hindsight, I'm going to be a bit tough on myself. I probably should have left them because I used some forceps to remove it, and because it's on the bony part, and I keep stressing this point on all of my videos and to my delegates. So when I use the forceps, the bottom jaw, and actually the distal end, so the tip of the forceps is quite sharp. And as I was trying to get the bottom jaw underneath the loose hair, I made the mildest contact with the bony part of the ear canal. You'll see in a moment, I'll highlight it to you when it happens, which very slightly grazed the ear canal. And the patient did feel it. Now, it wasn't massively uncomfortable, but the patient did move. And looking back, I should have just left it, as it wasn't going to cause massive issues. I thought I had enough space to gently remove it, and these you can see there's hairs there, and these forceps that I use, they are micro forceps. They're the smallest ones. You get different sizes, and these are the micro ones now, with a fine jaw as well. On camera, you might think, "Oh, that looks really big," but remember, guys, this is magnified considerably. but they are the most minutest of forceps we used. So these hairs are just in the isthmus. So there's the forceps, and I know they look large, but in real life they're so small. So these two hairs I got out without any problem. And suctioning hairs is not always possible, especially when it's stuck here. So this is stuck slightly on the left-hand side of the ear canal. So you can see it, there's a little gap there. And I'm just thinking, can I get in? And I've just grazed it there. Can you see it? You can see the skin that's just grazed. And the patient flinched, and obviously I moved out. So decided just to leave the rest. Again, slight attic retraction at the top.